What's good, everybody? It's hard to believe, but indeed the NBA playoffs are here. Well, at least the play-in games are here. So we're calling it the playoffs, and we're here for you. We are your daily and evening sports betting brand of record. We are powered, as always, by the almighty SportsLine, the best value in all sports betting, and it's not even close. We're going to be doing these live shows as many nights as it makes sense, because we grind and we grind for you. So let's not waste any time, because we got bets we got to get in and we got to beat the numbers. So let's bring in the stars of the show. You know I'm going three wide, and I'm bringing my three rock stars to the table on night number one. First and foremost, live from Nashville, Tennessee, the penthouse level. M Squared, what's good, man?
Good afternoon, Coach. Good afternoon, fellas. Getting ready for these games. Huge baseball slate. Ready for these two playoff games. Got to say, I am a big fan of the play-in tournament. I think it's great for the NBA.
Why do you like it so much?
Obviously more opportunities to make money when you have these little standalone isolated games. It's good for everyone, right? More basketball that means something is good for everyone. But yeah, I like to see teams that beat up with injuries at certain points of the season. The way things have been over the last 2 years, I think it's kind of cool to give those teams the right to play in and prove that they earned that spot where they've been on the cusp of being in the playoffs all year. So for me, I love it.
Yeah, I back you on that. I love it too. More opportunities for teams that aren't in the playoffs to play in. I love this. I know the players don't like it, but we absolutely love it. All right, also live from Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, but 8 floors below. AB, it is, all kidding aside, it is great to see your face tonight. It really, really is. How are you?
Well, I'm fantastic. Look, and let me say, it's great to see you guys' faces. Anybody in Nashville, in Tennessee, dealt with some crazy weather. Look, the basement flooded this morning, but you know what? We're all right. We kept Mikey prepared and good to go up top. So, yeah, apologize for any waits, delays on the show this morning. But, yeah, fantastic, man. It's good to be here.
I don't care about the show being late. I was worried sick when we couldn't get a hold of you. I was scared to death. So, the show's secondary. I don't give a damn about the show. I'm glad that you are safe. I truly am.
Good to go. And I'll say this, about 10, 15 minutes right before the show, just power everything. I was throwing things like, dude, we got to get this power going.
We actually were talking about what do you think AB's doing right now?
Oh, I was hitting switches like on the electrical outlet, didn't even know what they were. Like, it was done.
That's almost worth it. Just that picture is almost worth it.
Yeah.
Finally, from parts unknown, but he is our guy. And the bigger the game, the more locked in my man is. You follow him on Prop Stars on the Twitter. We call him Alex. What's good, my man?
What's good, Coach? Gentlemen, good to see you. About 5 minutes before we went on air, we had a crazy 10-minute hailstorm here in parts unknown. So if that's any indication of how things are going to go tonight, it is going to be a crazy stream and a crazy night of basketball. I'm so pumped up.
I think that's a great analogy. So let's get right into it, guys. And by the way, those of you in the chat, do me a quick favor. Go ahead and hit that like button for me, and also drop in your Twitter handle. You never know when we might be giving out things from time to time. I'll be honest with you. We've been giving out so many prizes. The bosses are getting a little hot at me. So I've got to take a little bit of a step back, but it's not going to be for very long. It is not going to be for very long. So we got 2 big games tonight. But let's jump into our best bets. Then we'll go into each game and break it down. If there is a prop that you like at your book, go ahead and put it in the chat for me. We'll get to as many different props as you can put in there. And I got to tell you, Alex told me this before the show started. He goes, Coach, you know you can give me any prop, and I can talk about it. So the challenge is now on you at home. Give us the props that you like. My man will tackle it, as will AP and M Squared. If you're going to notice him looking off the screen a little bit, for all you DFS incredible players out there, that's what Mikey's doing in real time, getting the DFS stuff taken care of at SportsLine. All right, so Alex, why don't we start with you? Because you've got 2 big plays that you have tonight. Best bets, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I do indeed, Coach, and one is on the move, so I would advise getting this one in as quickly as possible. That is Norman Powell, over 15.5 points. For those of you unaware, he is coming off the bench for the Los Angeles Clippers. Luke Kennard, who is one of the best rotation players for the Clippers, their best three-point shooter, led the NBA in three-point shooting this season, will not be active tonight. So that should give Powell a bump in both minutes and shot attempts. Powell was injured for a duration of the season, came back over the last 2 games of the season. Both of those games scored 20-plus points off the bench with only 22 minutes played. He's actually cleared this line in 9 straight games dating all the way back to January. This guy is a bucket off the bench. Just an excellent spot for him. The Wolves give up the second most bench points in the NBA this season, 40.2. Not much defense prowess as far as that second unit or even the first unit's concerned. I love Norman Powell tonight. I expect him to get minutes possibly between 25 to 28. And this guy is just one of the best scorers in the league. So I absolutely love him. Over 15.5 points. The other play that I have isn't necessarily a prop, but it's something I feel very strongly about. That is the Cavaliers to miss the playoffs. Obviously, they're in the play-in tournament, but I expect them to miss the playoffs. What would have to happen for them to miss they would have to lose tonight versus Brooklyn, and then they'll face the winner of Charlotte versus Atlanta. That will be a single elimination game, the winner of that game. So I'm anticipating Cleveland losing tonight against Brooklyn. Obviously, the odds reflect that as well. They're nearly double-digit underdogs in this game, coupled with this team has just not looked right since the All-Star break. They've just been dealt with a lot of injuries. They're also a young and inexperienced teams. Often when you see teams that kind of exceed expectations, they hit walls as the season progresses, and that is exactly what's happened with this Cavs team. Also, just dealt with a lot of injuries. No Jarrett Allen, who is their defensive anchor, their rim protector. They just have not looked the same without Allen. They have been one of the worst teams in the NBA post All-Star break. This is just a really tough spot for them, in my opinion. And then having to play either Atlanta or Charlotte. I'm expecting it to be Atlanta. We saw Atlanta last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. Trae Young, big game player. The Cavs are young. They just don't have the experience. I think at plus 150, it's tremendous value because I do not expect them to be a favorite in the next game. Obviously, they're not a favorite in this game.
Boy, I tell you what, educate and entertain. It's next level right there. That is next level for my man, Prop Stars. All right. We're going to show you a graphic here in a second, but first I want to get to AB's best bets quickly. AB, what do you got for us?
Yep. So first we're going to go with Seth Curry over 11.5 points. It's an attractive number. He should be able to get there. SportsLine, our simulations have him around 14 to 15 points. Again, just looking at how Cleveland defends against Brooklyn. You've got KD you got to deal with. You've got Kyrie you've got to deal with. And I'm fascinated to see what they do in regards to the paint as well. Could be a lot of in and out for Brooklyn in terms of their offensive shots. I think Seth Curry gets there. I'm going to go Clippers-Timberwolves under 231 as well. Again, look, this sounds insane because the Timberwolves have given up so many points, not only this season, as Prop Stars just alluded to in regards to the bench, second most in the NBA. But I'm going to look at the Clippers, as well as their offensive output. I think that both teams kind of slow this thing down a little bit, especially in the first half. So we've got SportsLine, the simulations have it around 219 points. So we've got some value there. So I'm going to hit both of those, Curry and the under 231.
And I think that with a young team like Minnesota that's not used to being into the playoffs, certainly there's going to be some nerves. I think that will cause the game to slow down, I think, to your point. And playoff games always are slower. It's more physical. The numbers come down, and maybe they haven't adjusted to that. This would normally be, and we know this would be a 240, 238 if this was a regular season game, down to 230. I still love this play, under 231. All right, get those numbers into the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can. But, Mikey, I want to come to you to start. As we jump into this first game, the Nets, it's now gone up to 9.5. It was kind of sitting on 8.5 for the last couple of days. Total 226.5. None of the games between these two teams have reached this total this year. The Nets just beat the Cavs 118-107, but the way they did it, they had to come back and outscore them by, I believe, 15 points in the fourth quarter, 16 points in the fourth quarter in their game just 5 days ago. Where do you stand on this game, Mikey?
Yeah, this one is fascinating for me. I think the line is inflated, but I think that it kind of has to be, obviously. If you open this line at 6.5, for example, that's going to get hammered by everyone wanting to bet the Brooklyn Nets at this point. So I make the number 8. It is the exact number where I make it in the simulations. I do show edge on the under in the game. It's down, my simulation's down to 222 on this one. But the two things that I tell you that are priced in, the blowout is priced in here. There's a very good chance that the Nets win this game by 25 points. Like there's a very good chance that they blow them out in this spot on their home floor. That's why you see a line ballooning to 9.5. That's why you see the total still up at that number, because there is definitely the scenario in which Brooklyn absolutely throttles them tonight. But I will say that both of those numbers, if the game plays to a more median situation, both numbers are inflated. It should be 8. It should be 223.5, 224 probably is where it should be. But I'm leaning under. I'm leaning the Cavs at 9.5 or 10 if you can get it. But I tell you what, I do not feel great about it, despite the computer telling me it should be 8.
It's scary because to your point, Mikey, we could have Kyrie and Kevin Durant go for 40 tonight each and just carry this team to a big-time win. Or the Cavs, who's been scoring a lot more without Jared Allen in the lineup, they've been really good offensively, at least a few game sample size, you know. Let me come to you, Alex. I got a question from the chat on Norman Powell. 2 threes. Let me read it correctly for you, make sure I have it right. Norman Powell, to make at least 2 threes is minus 167, but to make 3 only moves the odds to minus 143. Is it better to stay at 2 made threes for Powell? Alex?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a really significant enough of a jump there. I do think he's a near mortal lock as long as he gets the minutes, which he's going to. I mean, like injury or foul trouble would be the only real reason that he wouldn't be on the floor. But yeah, I think that I like both of these. Obviously, if you're looking for something that's not heavily juiced, I would, point you in the direction of his points. But yeah, if you're including one of these bets into a same game parlay or something like that, I think, you can't go wrong with either of them, especially the 2, considering that there's, very little movement between 2 and 3.
Okay. Very, very good. Here's where we're at as a brand on this particular game. Mike Barner and Matty Severance are on the Cavs when they were at plus 8.5. Micah Roberts is on the Nets minus 8.5. Zach Attack is on the Cavs at plus 9.5. And Amir Tyree, AB, is on the under 226.5, leaning the same way as Mikey is. Your thoughts on any of those plays?
Yeah, so I think Mike nailed it, in terms of having the number right at 8. Look at the Nets. Excuse me. Their last 4 games, they've won all 4 by 8 points or more, closer to 8 than anything else, right? You look at the Cavs, their last 12 games, 3-9 against the spread. And I kind of go back to March Madness when we were coming off of conference tournaments going into the big dance. You looked at teams who were not playing very well, teams that were playing very well, and how that kind of just correlated, because it's tough to just turn that switch on, right? So I think Mike is correct in terms of there's a big blowout factor that could happen with Brooklyn tonight. So not only that, like I would lean more towards Brooklyn than anything, but playing the total, that's what scares me, is that Brooklyn could score so many points tonight that even if Cleveland doesn't really show up, they kind of carry a lot of the water in the bucket for it, right? So I think that scares me. But if I had to lean anything, yeah, it would be the Nets or nothing.
Okay. Very, very good. I'm leaning to the over just because and maybe this recency bias, which Mikey tells us all the time, do not buy into. And I get that. But, man, these Cavs have been scoring a lot of points, and we know what the Nets can do. Alex, talk to me.
Yeah, the Cavs are certainly capable offensively. Obviously, we know how lethal Brooklyn can be, having 2 of the greatest scorers alive in KD and Irving. I'd also mention that this Cleveland team, the reason they were so good in the first 2/3 of the season leading up to the All-Star break was mainly because of their defense. They ranked in the top 3 in nearly every single defensive team metric, had excellent rim protection, excellent size. When we saw Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley together look like a young twin towers, at least defensively, these guys were just elite. And then losing Jarrett Allen forced Evan Mobley out of position to play center. He's a rookie who, in my opinion, hit a rookie wall, and that's just a huge task for him when you look at the rest of the Cleveland's roster and you just don't really have very many good defenders outside of there. So we've just seen this Cleveland defense go from one of the league's best and then losing Jarrett Allen post All-Star break, coupled with some other significant injuries, to being one of the absolute worst defenses in the NBA. It's just been a tale of 2 halves for this team. And without playing defense, especially against a team like Brooklyn, I just have a really hard time seeing how Cleveland is going to be competitive in this game.
Isn't it amazing how big of a difference one player can make? And for the Cavs, man, not having that inside just beast in Jared. It's made all the difference in the world. I got to tell you, all of you in the chat that watch this show every day, I'm completely proud of you because I tell you all the time, keep it positive, keep lifting each other up. And there's somebody in the chat named, make sure I get it right, and this is not a negative towards him. Matt, damn it. There's got so many people watching right now. Sorry. Anyway, somebody's asking to be made fun of. Oh, have fun in the chat. Tell me I suck or something. We don't do here at this show. Do we tease each other? Yes. But we keep it positive. We lift each other up. We don't tell each other we suck in the chat. We don't make fun of each other in the chat. We don't do that. We're here to help each other. All right. Mikey, question for you from Jay Soper. Would you double down and hedge the Nets minus 9.5 with the Nets money line? Boy, Mets money line is pretty steep, though. Like
personally, I don't mind it depending on where you can get it. I think that the best play for you on that is to hope that the Nets have a slow start. And you'll be able to bring that number down. It was minus 400 yesterday. I think it's ballooned up to minus 500 at this point. I think they're a very safe bet to win. I do think there's value on it at minus 400. It just comes down to, are you someone that is prepared to bet minus 400s consistently or not? But I do like them. I think that they win the game pretty easily tonight.
Okay, very good. Alex, let me come back to you. I got 2 questions from the chat from Max. He says, is it more likely to have the opportunities to make at least 3 threes? Kevin Love at plus 118 or Lauri Markkanen at plus 106?
It's close. The Nets do give up a lot of perimeter shots on switches and stuff. They don't have the most mobile center in Andre Drummond, so you do see them giving up a lot of threes to opposing wings. I do think both of those plays are live. I'd probably lean towards Markkanen, considering that he's going to be on the floor more than Kevin Love. I tend to look towards volume. I think he'll probably end up with more shot attempts, but that being said, when Kevin Love is on the floor, he's usually playing against the opposing team's second unit, and he is the primary scorer, or the second primary scorer, so he's getting up a lot of shots. We saw how quickly he got hot. I think he played 12 minutes in the last game, Coach, had 32 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. I think he went 7 for 8 from 3. I mean, this guy can just get hot in a second. So, yeah, I would probably lean towards Markkanen just for the sole fact that he's got the edge in minutes played.
AB, wasn't Kevin Love one of the big parlays that Max hit? Like,
yeah, he was
1,000. Like, hit 3 threes and score 40 points or something is crazy. But I think it was Kevin Love just a couple of weeks ago. There's 3 plays I want to ask you about, Alex, because just like in the NFL, there are certain players, just like teams, that people love to bet on. I'm going to give you 2 that are the obvious one, and then there's one that's very sneaky. And I'd love anybody else if you want to weigh in on these 2. Of course, Kyrie Irving, his number is 28.5. It's juiced to minus 139. Kevin Durant, his number is 32.5, juiced to minus 113. And then a guy that's been cashing a lot on his over is Bruce Brown. And his number's been around 11 or 12 for the last several games. Today, it's at 13.5 plus 104. Talk to me.
I may be one of the biggest Bruce Brown fans in the NBA. This guy is one of my favorite players. I absolutely love him. He is like a Swiss Army knife. This guy can do everything. He defends the opposing team's best wing scorer. He's actually a really sneaky playmaker as well. He can hit a 3. He's great at slashing to the rim, gets a lot of points at the basket, just plays very sound, fundamental basketball in the right place at the right time. In my opinion, you could take Bruce Brown and just transport him to any roster in the NBA, and he'd instantly be able to play minutes and make your team better. I have such a high opinion of him. I expect him to play big minutes tonight. This guy has been phenomenal down the stretch for Brooklyn. Obviously, we know how good KD is. We know how good Irving is, but I think there's an argument to be made. He's been the 3rd most important player for Brooklyn this season, especially in the second half of the season. He's been playing 32 to 38 minutes per night. Like I said, he has the toughest defensive assignment, does everything. He's just been phenomenal. Steve Nash really trusts him. So, yeah, I expect him to play significant minutes tonight, likely guard at times Karis LeVert, Darius Garland be super involved, have significant usage. So, yeah, I like all of his props. These numbers are big considering the role he's been on So I would err a little bit cautiously with him just because he's been super, super productive. And we've seen him he's pretty much crushed every single prop that he's had, dating back almost 20 games. This guy's just been on an absolute roll. So I've got no problem with playing him. I would caution you're playing him, close to peak numbers. So I personally am staying away. I rode this guy very hard earlier in the season when the numbers were less. Then as far as KD and Kyrie are concerned, either of these guys can get hot. Kyrie, in my opinion, is in a little bit more of like an attack mode right now. We see how obviously he just gets the basket at will. Nobody can stop him. And we've seen Kevin Durant just phenomenal as a playmaker. The way that this guy can basically take what the defense gives you and he's just looked phenomenal in all phases of the game. So it wouldn't surprise me to see KD flirt with a triple-double tonight and then Kyrie go off for 40. So I'm right now personally trusting Kyrie more as a scorer, KD more as a facilitator. If they're going to leave KD in one-on-one situations, he will get a bucket, of course. But yeah, I'm trusting Kyrie more at the 27, 28 point range.
Yeah, 32.5. That's one of the biggest numbers we've seen all season long. AB, what do you got?
Yeah, first off, Coach, when you were playing college ball, remember after games, the next day, you would have your assistant coaches go over film with you. Yeah, imagine props in that spot. I want that. Him breaking down every single part of your game, man. I would love that. Look, I'm going to steal a little line from Mikey here. I think it depends on how you think this game is going to go, right? When you're looking at these three. If you think that there's a blowout potential, especially late third quarter, early fourth quarter. This game is kind of wrapped up. You might not see a ton of minutes at the end for a guy like KD or maybe Kyrie. Now, if that means that those guys put up points, for sure. But like you just said, Coach, getting to 32, 33, 34, you could get stuck by minutes in that. I think, if you look at a guy like Brown, not only his points getting to 13.5, getting to 14 is attractive there. Look at his combos, right? That guy's probably going to put in a ton of minutes, especially if it's a blowout late. You could look at rebounds, steals, whatever, right? I think that there's opportunities there. If it were me, I think Kyrie as well would be the play because he can shoot, he can drive to the bucket, and especially if that paint is open with KD and Seth Curry, heading outside, Kyrie's going to get a lot of opportunity points there. So I would probably lean Kyrie, but yeah, Brown with that short number might be your attractive play.
Okay, real quick, Alex, and then I got to go to M Squared.
Just want to point out real quick, Kyrie has played just massive minutes recently for Brooklyn as well. He's eclipsed 40 minutes, and I want to say 7 of their last 11 games, 39 minutes in the other games. So he's been Steve Nash has been riding him super hard, but Goran Dragic, I read, is returning tonight. Could take away a couple minutes from Kyrie. So just something to be aware of and conscious of.
Oh, but I like when he plays. He's a great facilitator. Great facilitator. All right, Mike, I got to come to you from the chat. A parlay opportunity, and you're our guy for that. Darius Garland over 25 points, and the Giants' first 5 innings minus 105.
That is a very interesting combination of things to put together tonight.
It's got jeweler written all over it.
Yeah. Let's see. The Giants' first 5, that's an interesting line on it because the line for that should be about that without the Garland points. So that's why I'm pausing a little bit on it. I don't have a great feel for that question, unfortunately. Not something I would play.
Okay. Todd Brown, let me come back to Alex quickly. You guys are the best. Todd, thank you very much. We agree. With what you were saying about the Cavs D, would you play the Nets over 11.5 threes at minus 125?
I don't mind it on the surface. Yeah, I do expect them to shoot a lot. That being said, the Nets also are phenomenal in the mid-range, also at the basket, attacking the basket as well. So they basically take what the defense gives you. And when we were talking about offensive players at the level of a KD and Kyrie, they're going to basically just do what the defense gives you. So, yeah, I don't love it, but I also don't mind it. So, sorry, I can't give you a firmer take.
AB?
Yep. Looking at the SportsLine simulations right here, got the Nets at 12, close to 12.5 threes made tonight. So, it's tough. The line is right there. You're looking at, minus 125 juice. If you play that, understand there's a good chance it could be risky, especially late if they're up. So, be careful with that. Just wanted to give that number from SportsLine.
And if you were a SportsLine member, you would have got that number earlier today because you would have had it all day long. Simulations, cappers, all of it. All right, Michael in the chat. All right, now you're starting to annoy me. You said, Coach, you were just mean to me and said no negativity. No, now I'm getting annoyed. One more, AB, kick him out. I'm not going to play anymore. One more from Michael, kick him out. I don't care what he types. If he types one more thing, kick him out. All right, I think we've got to all of the plays from the early game. All right, but guess what? We still have another game to get to. But first, we have grown so much as a brand that we now need to promote our parent company, Paramount Plus. Here you go.
This was it. We're back.
Come on, be my baby tonight.
Julie has a controversial history with many of us.
I'm not trying to mess with that lady.
My sexuality made you feel uncomfortable.
That door is open and I can leave.
I'm either with you 100% or not with you at all.
You didn't apologize.
I hate you. Why did I come back here?
The Real World Homecoming, New Orleans. Streaming April 20th exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Can you imagine doing Real World and then 20 years later doing it again? I feel like you could, Alex.
That's MTV's Real World, or like that's the same? Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know it was still running.
Yeah, it is because MTV is part of the Paramount family. So yeah, it's still running, but it's like it's the OGs. It's like the ones that did it 20 years ago. Now They're coming back because they're bored housewives or house husbands or whatever. They just want to get out of the house. I don't blame them. All right, let's get into our second game tonight, everybody. It's the Clippers and the Timberwolves. The 7-8 from the West. Timberwolves -3. Very quietly, I think a lot of people didn't even think they were a playoff team. Well, they've been stumbling down the stretch, and the Clippers have been playing really, really good basketball. The Clippers won 3 of 4 in this season series this year, but Timberwolves are favored by 3. The total 231. We're already on this play. AB is on the under 231, 9:30 Eastern on TNT. Michael Roberts is on the Clippers plus the 3. I gave the Clippers out today on the morning show plus the 3. Matty Severance. Timberwolves money line. What a shock. -140. Then AB, as I said, is on the under. Prop stars. You're on Norman Powell over 15.5 in the chat. Apparently at a place called Prize Nuke. Never heard of him. It's at 14.5. Should I pound it?
Absolutely.
That's your shortest take you've ever had.
Ever.
Ever had. Awesome. All right, let's get into it. Mikey, let me come back to you to start the discussion because the Clippers also very quietly with Paul George back in the lineup. They are 3-0 this season against the Timberwolves when Paul George and Karl Anthony Towns plays. However, it's been all about Paul George, over 25 points a game in this season series. Towns, only 15 points a game. Your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, it's a fascinating matchup. I really can't wait to watch this game. You're right. It's all about Paul George. He's definitely going to have massive usage rate. He's going to have a good playoff P game. He's going to have to shoot the basketball well. If he doesn't, I think that they're in trouble just because of how they play. He's got to make shots with the usage and the way that they run the offense through him. I am very interested, like Alex, to see Norman Powell's role. I think that there's one of two things that can happen in this game. I think Powell can see massive minutes, or Powell can see a few more. They run Hartenstein out there a little bit more as well to try and play some of the matchup games. I'm in the camp that thinks that they run Powell a little more. I like that because I do think he can take enough pressure off of Paul George on certain possessions, almost alternating possessions at times. So I'm very interested there. If you made me play the game right now, I would play the Clippers +3. I think that this is a scenario also, though, where the Timberwolves could have a nice start to the game, and you can grab this on the live line, get the Clippers around 5.5, 6, try to get the 2 full possessions with the points because we know the Timberwolves do struggle in second quarters against some of the bench units as well. That's where I would expect the Clippers to really make up some ground or pull away, depending on where they're at in the first quarter. But I do think there's a good opportunity that you can get a little bit better number on the live line in this game.
And we tell you all the time, if you're going to live bet, you got to watch the game. You have to be watching the game because you have to get at the timeouts. There's that 3.5, 4-minute period. And also, I would encourage you to follow Mikey on social media because he is the king of the live bet for us. Let me come to you, AB. I was not aware that your girlfriend was in the chat during the live show. So Foxy Fries asks, because I think that you think fries are Foxy. Yours and Cat to score 60+ points is plus 200 boosted on FanDuel. Is it worth it?
All right. So first off, yeah, I was fascinated to see where you're going with that. And you know what? You delivered as usual. All right. So look, the difference, you were talking about Paul George. All right. The difference of after his elbow injury has been 3-pointers. All right. Before the injury, he shot 32% from 3. Afterward, 53%. Those 5 games that he's come back, he's shot 43s, 40 of them. Right. So I think that is exactly where it's at. However, let me also give you a nugget on this. He's been shooting lights out from 3. His points per game, however, have gone down since. Everything else is up except his points per game, gone from 24, close to 25, down to 22.8. So I think that what you're going to do is, I'm on the under, so I don't like it, right? Like, I don't like it. I don't want it. That being said, plus 200, understand what you're getting into. If you want to sprinkle a little bit on it, have fun with it. I don't think that it gets there. I just don't. I think that this is going to be a slow, low-scoring game. But watch. You were talking about live betting. Specifically, watch Paul George, the beginning of the game, and how quick he goes to shooting threes. And if he starts missing them, man, it could be a different style game. So, yeah, long answer, no, I'm out.
But this is a classic spot that you're conflicted, and you pointed it out. You're on a play. There's nothing worse than being on an under in a game and then want to bet on 2 guys to go off. Because those 2, if they go off, good chance it's going to sail over 231. So you got to keep that in mind. Alex, let me come to you, bud. Max in the chat says Isaiah Hartenstein over a half of 3 plus 288. But here's the deal. He's attempted multiple threes and made at least 1 in 5 straight. Does that streak continue?
I don't believe it does. I'll touch on Hartenstein real quick. I just want to point out with Paul George, the reason his points have come down is because he's been on a hard minute cap since he returned to the lineup. He hasn't exceeded 30 minutes, or I think only in the last game did he exceed 30 minutes. He's going to have no restrictions tonight. He's going to play upwards of 40 minutes, so I think he will be fine in the scoring department. That being said, I'm not endorsing that Cat and Paul George play. I just wanted to point that out, that he should be full systems go, and I do expect a massive workload from Paul George tonight. As far as Hartenstein is concerned, I expect, and this is going to be a theme throughout the playoffs, as far as bench players are concerned, you're going to see rotations kind of tighten up and shorten. I don't think Hartenstein is going to play more than maybe 15 minutes tonight. So we've seen him have a longer leash in the regular season, kind of prepping for the playoffs. Zubac and him kind of splitting the load. I think Zubac is going to play more. I also think the Clippers are going to go small without a center on the court. So just considering that Hartenstein is probably only going to play between 12 and 15 minutes, I don't like any of his props. I actually loved fading his PRA at 17.5. Came out a couple hours ago, has been hammered down as low as 14.5. I'd lay away from it there. If you still have access to an offshore, you see him around 16.5. I would definitely take the under there, though.
Let all that just sink in for a second. Could you please? There are levels to this freaking game. Damn. Educate and entertain me, prop stars, please. Now, I do want to ask, several people are asking about Mikey's Twitter handle, and I apologize. I always tell you to follow him. I never give it to you. It's at Mike5754. He's got the blue check mark at Mike5754. I encourage you to go follow him right now, especially if you are a live bettor or you want to learn about live betting. All right, let me come back to you because I think, Mikey, because I think this is a very, very interesting prop. I told you Paul George has averaged 25 points a game. His number is 27.5. It's only minus 122. Your thoughts on Paul George tonight?
I like Paul George tonight, personally, just because I think the usage out of all the players is going to be there. You might think that's a crazy statement because the usage should be there for Kevin Durant always, but he is still competing with Kyrie Irving for usage at times, and there is a scenario where Kyrie Irving goes off, Kevin Durant does not, or vice versa. There's no real scenario for the Clippers in which Paul George doesn't take all of the shots, doesn't have all of the usage. The only thing you're really fading here is massive foul trouble, gets in a fight, gets ejected with Patrick Beverley, which is always in play, but that's literally what you're fading here. Out of all the top players to reach the 30-point threshold tonight, he is the one I actually feel the best about out of him, Durant,
Really?
Irving, and Cat. Yes.
Oh, and we're getting 2.5 points of value below 30 tonight. So, all right, awesome. I like that a lot. And again, you don't have to play that. Do you think it'll go up? Because I know a lot of people with their money management, you don't want to play it until closer to game time to lock that money up. Do you think it's going to move?
The only way I can answer that question is it's not going to go down.
Okay.
It's not going to go down. It will go up if for some reason Alex and I look at each other and say, hey, let's make this an official play. It's probably going to go up, but it's not going to go down really in any circumstance, because I think that the most likely scenario is 20 minutes before game, you see a tweet from a reputable account reminding everyone that Paul George is no longer on any sort of minutes cap. And then you see that number go from 27.5 to 28.5.
All right. So bet it 30 minutes before the game. Alex, what do you got, big boy?
Yeah, I'm just glad that Mikey brought this name up. I definitely feel he should be mentioned because to me he's somewhat of an X factor in this game, and that is Patrick Beverley, Mr. 94 feet himself, one of the biggest pests in the NBA. I love this guy. Former Clipper. He's been with the Clippers, I believe, the past 4 or 5 seasons. He has joined the Timberwolves. He has been an excellent, steady veteran presence both in the locker room, on the court as well. You know what you get from this guy every night. So I know a lot of sharp money is on the Clippers at +3. I do like that spot as well personally, but keep an eye out for Patrick Beverley. This guy is born to play in these sort of games.
I know there's a lot of new people watching tonight. Here's a little secret. When Alex gets super excited, that means he really likes a play. Just take that into account. When he gets really, really excited. Now, let me come back to you. Got to get the bag. I love that. Let me come to you, AB. He says, Coach, how about Karl-Anthony Towns? His PAR is at 42.5. I've told you, he's really struggled against the Clippers this year for whatever reason. It's pretty much a push here. -116 to the over, -114 to the under. Talk to me, AB.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go under it again. Look, I know that I'm on, the under in the game here, but again, like I think that it's going to take a team effort here, right? So you're going to give in one category and take in another. And quite frankly, I can't tell you exactly which one it's going to be, but I think that there's so much risk there, and especially it being, just a split in terms of, a dime on either side. If you were getting plus money, one way or the other, I'd probably roll, but yeah, like I'd go with the under on that more than anything. Yeah, that's where I'm going.
All right, so let me come right back to you, Mikey, because now we're starting to get the questions on that PAR. And you said you love Paul George at 27.5, but what about his PAR is 42.5?
I don't mind it. I can get there, but we expect almost everything to come in the form of points. He did have a ton of assists in the last game that he played, but in this particular spot, especially on a road game, with star players, we always prefer them playing on home courts when they're playing PRAs or assist totals, just because the assist is very subjective and can definitely be awarded a lot more on home floors, especially for star players. So I'm going to pass on that one. I think that the scoring is where the majority of that's going to come from. So I would rather play the points on it. I think that with Towns on the floor and some of the other guys on the floor, I think that the 12-13 rebound game that is possible from Paul George, I don't think it's incredibly likely in this particular matchup. So I'm going to take it on points. I think that there's a very good chance he scores 30 points in this game.
All right, but not the PAR. Alex, let me come to you, because Karl-Anthony Towns, we like the under there, but we've learned through this show that you can't always use what has happened in the next game. Karl-Anthony Towns only averages 15 points a game this year against the Clippers. His number is 27.5 plus 116 to the over. And the under is -147. And I guarantee you it's because of what he's done in those 3 games he's played in this year. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think 27.5 is a bit too big for him in this spot. I actually don't really weigh his previous performances versus the Clippers that heavily for a number of reasons, mainly being that I think that the Clippers are going to go small a lot in this game, which will be advantageous to Cat. I don't know how much we're going to see Hartenstein and Zubac on the floor tonight. But, yeah, I do think the game will be paced down and it will be a tighter game, a lot of half-court sets. So I do think 27.5 is a bit too rich for Cat, even in an advantageous matchup. I do expect him to play well. I don't think just because he's had 15 points against this Clippers team, that means he's going to struggle tonight. I would lean under, but he's certainly capable of having a big game, especially against a Clippers team that has struggled versus kind of guys who are really good in the interior. So I would say it's an anomaly, the fact that Cat hasn't played well versus the Clippers doing something, extra sharp to defend him well.
Yeah, I agree, especially if this game starts to go up and down like a lot of Minnesota's games can do, and there's a lot of points being scored, then he can almost garbage time his way to 28 points if it's a game like that. AB, let me come back to you. We got several more to get to, or a few more to get to, and then we're going to get the heck out of here because the first game starts in just 20 minutes. A guy that we haven't talked about that has been fantastic this year, Anthony Edwards. This man can score. He can shoot. He's athletic. His number is 22.5 minus 117. What are your thoughts, AB?
You know what? I'm in. Honestly, there's going to have to be somebody that's putting up points that's not, your superstar mega players. Yeah, I like it.
Very good. And I like that take. I like that
take. To the point.
By the way, get a grip. Listen to him. Let's pound that like button for me. You may not think it helps. It helps the growth of the show so much at YouTube, Apple, Spotify. When you hit the like button, leave us a review. It really, really helps us grow. And we've got something coming for you. And the better we place ourselves, the better it's going to be. That's all I can tell you. But I promise it's going to be big in the next 4 to 6 months, I would say. All right, we've got a couple more I want to get to, and then we're going to get the hell out of Dodge and enjoy the games tonight. Don't forget, we'll be back here right here live tomorrow for the other two play-in games, the 9s and the 10s for both the Eastern and the Western Conference. You guys mentioned Patrick Beverley. Let me come to you, Alex. His rebounds is 4.5 minus 115. His assists are his PAR is 18.5. Do we like anything Patrick Beverley other than what you stated as far as playing his props are concerned?
I think his impact is going to be just kind of more of like a real life impact versus a prop impact. Just the way this guy plays defense, his sort of leadership, his role with the Timberwolves. I just think he helps the Timberwolves potentially get a win or be very competitive in this game. As far as his props are concerned, I don't love this spot for him. The Clippers are very good defensively, especially as far as their backcourt defense is concerned. They also play very slow. One of the bottom 10 teams in pace of play. So this game, coupled with the fact being a playoff game or a play-in tournament game, is going to be paced down. And he's going to see the Clippers are very good defensively as far as the backcourt defense is concerned. So I don't love Beverly's props tonight. In my opinion, the best way to attack it is kind of what Mike alluded to regarding Paul George. And I absolutely love this Norman Powell prop as well. If you still haven't taken that, I would strongly suggest you look at Norman Powell's points tonight.
All right. Very, very good. Yes, AB.
Do we know what Beverly's props are on three-pointers made? By any chance? 1.5. I think if I were gonna take any shot on Beverly tonight, I think it would be 1.5, like over 1.5. Honestly, I think
plus 105 on over 1.5.
Plus 105. I think that's the one that I would take. Honestly.
Do you see Vinny in the chat? That would be a great prop. We need an injection prop like that, Beverly.
I had his undercoach the last 2 times he got ejected.
Stop it.
I did.
Did you really?
I did.
I didn't know you could actually bet on that.
Oh. Well, I didn't have him. I just had his PRA under.
Oh, I got you.
The last 2 times I bet him, he got ejected in both games.
You're like, hell yes. That is the ultimate no sweat. The ultimate no sweat. I got one more, and I'm coming to Mikey for it. But first, I got to read a nice note from Got to Get the Bag. Thank you, AB, Mike, and, of course, Prop Stars. I got love for you all. Also, the coach. I'm always learning and growing with you all. That's a whole point of us being here, is for us all to do this. We're not going to win every bet. We know that. But if we do it together, we can do a lot more. And we're doing it together. It's positive, and I freaking love it. One last play. Reggie Jackson. This dude, it seems like big games, Mikey. He steps up. His number is 17.5 minus 107.
So tough with Reggie Jackson with Paul George being back in the lineup. I personally lean under on the scoring. I think that the only way you're going to get this to go over is if Paul George has one of those games that he is capable about every 7 to 8 games in situations like this. We will see the 2 quick fouls from Paul George. If that happens, that is the likely scenario where you can get there. If you, for some reason, want to bet the over on Reggie Jackson, the only way I could recommend it is if you're somewhere that has live player props and you're essentially waiting a little bit later in the game and grabbing this number when it comes down to around 10 to 11 points, because I personally think or you can play the under on it if you want to right away. I think the under is an okay look initially, but I think this number should be closer to 13.5.
Okay. Alex, talk to me.
Yeah, I really actually like fading Reggie Jackson tonight. Since Paul George has returned to the lineup, Jackson has been held under 12 points, I believe, in 6 of the last 8 games. So his usage has gone way down. He's the numbers, because he was, sort of the main shot taker for Los Angeles for the majority of time that Paul was out, haven't quite caught up to what his usage looks like with Paul back on the floor. And also Norman Powell on the floor takes usage away from him as well. So I think these numbers are a bit too inflated. I actually really like fading Reggie Jackson tonight. I like that under 17.5 points quite a bit.
Mikey fades him. Alex fades him. That's all I need to know. That is all I need to know. AB, I need you to do 2 things. We got 3 things left. I need you to show me the graphic with the entire playoffs and the play-in scenarios on them, please. If you came in late to the show, here is what the play-ins look like tonight. In the Eastern Conference, 7-8 Nets Cavs. They will play. The loser will face the winner of the Hawks and the Hornets, which played tomorrow. The winner will become the 7th seed. And congratulations, Boston Celtics. You might get the New Jersey Nets in the first round. And then on the Western side of things, Timberwolves Clippers are the 7-8. Pelican Spurs play tomorrow night. The loser plays the winner of that. The winner of tonight will become the 7 seed, and they will face, again, congratulations, number 2 Memphis, perhaps the hottest team in the entire NBA. So that's what you get for winning tonight's play-in game. All right, real quick, put up the best bets if you don't mind. And here is our 4 official plays. But as I told you, across the SportsLine family, if you're a SportsLine member, you can go into the game. There's so many different picks there. And use the write-ups for what you like. Use the information for what you think. So Prop Stars is on Cavaliers to miss the NBA playoffs. They would have to lose 2 games, to be clear, for this to happen, at plus 155. Then Norman Powell over 15.5 points tonight. Then AB, Seth Curry over 11.5. And then Clippers-Timberwolves under 231 as well. You guys all know we like to end our live shows with my guys and ladies telling you exactly what they are most looking forward to tonight. AB, start us off.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how it looks. We talked about earlier in terms of teams that are playing hot and well coming into the play-in games, teams that are not. I'm fascinated to see if that translates or we get what we saw in the middle of the season. So, yeah, tonight and tomorrow night, yeah, looking to see that.
Alex, you're up.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by both these matchups, specifically the first matchup. Can the Cavs withstand Brooklyn getting up double digits early? Are they going to be able to come back, make a run, make a game competitive where they're down 15 to 17 points in the first half? I'm not sure they have the makeup or the experience to do that. In the nightcap game, I just think this is going to be a fantastic game between 2 very evenly matched teams. Should be very competitive. Wouldn't surprise me to come down to the final possession or, to see potentially an overtime game as well. So can't wait. Going to be a great night of basketball.
I would love to see a final possession. That means my Clippers plus the 3 with cash money. Mikey, bring us home.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that second game. I'm basically penciling the Nets in as winners. Obviously, famous last words on that one. But I'm really looking forward to see Paul George unleashed and how they can play together in this spot. I think that this game is absolutely fascinating. And let's see what Paul George can do.
This is what this show was born for. It was nights like tonight, 2 big games. You also got Major League Baseball going on. You got hockey going on. We have you covered pretty much top to bottom. Also, some really good cashes today in the world of soccer from Buckets and the Guru there. So we're really starting to catch our stride. There's other brands that are going into hibernation right now. Not us. Not us. We're here 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's only one thing left to do, and thank you all so very much for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedules to spend it with us when we do these shows. It means the world. There's only one thing left to do, And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these NBA play-in tickets straight to the pay window. For all of my crew, I love them all. M Squared, AB, Prop Stars, and of course the jeweler who's always lurking, our executive producer at the brand. I am the coach. Tell all your friends. You want to be included? You want to be positive? You want to have fun? It's all right here at the Early Edge. See you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. sharp. Peace.